Early July, Lake Champlain, Point Affair. Does that sound like a great formula? Actually, today we just looked out at Lake Champlain, and I said, no, I don't think I'd want to be out there in too small a canoe, because first of all, I wouldn't fit in too small a canoe. And secondly, it is a little choppy for man and beast out there today. I don't see very many boats on the lake. Well, we're at a beautiful log home, which belongs to Pam Damour. How are you, Pam?
I'm doing great. Thank you for coming to visit today.
We've been waiting to come to see you up here in Point Affair for a long time. When we finally made our connection, before we came up here, I said to Calvin, you say Point Affair, I say Point Affair, which is right? And he said, most people say Point Affair. It's like Alberg, you
right,
know.
Point Affair, because fair is French for iron.
Now, there is the bone of contention.
Yes, it used to be Point of Fear, Point of Fire. And no one's really sure how the name got changed from Point of Fear to Point of Fur. They don't know if it's the old French language where the E's and the I's were interchangeable, or if it was a map maker that had poor penmanship.
You know, all of the above could very well be reasonable because it's happened so many times. We've studied the background of many of the North Country names, especially those Frenchmen.
You know
they had the habit of.
Do you know why they called it Point of Fear? Point of Fire? Well, you know, there's a reef down here. Yeah. And the British encampment had their armies here until after the War of 1812. And so they used to bring the boats down from Montreal on the weekends with the prostitutes, and they didn't want to go adrift on the reef, so they had the fires here for the boats to come ashore.
That's a chapter in the history of the North Country that I never even dreamed of.
They came with supplies.
They came with supplies? Is that what it was?
Yes, supplies. I'm sorry, did I say something else? It was supplies, that's right.
Nocturnal supplies. Never any real trysts would happen back in those days. Very interesting story. Now, I've heard elements of that, but I never heard that twist. Never mind a tryst. I never heard that twist. But it makes perfect sense to me and probably has several elements in the truth.
I suppose. I don't know.
You know, never throw the gauntlet down in front of Gordy Little or Calvin Castine, because now we're going to have to do some serious historic research.
There you go.
I was going to stop in at the Clinton County Office of the historian Addie Shields, but now I'm not sure if I want to with that chapter of the story. But if I mention Point Affair, I'm sure she'll be good for 2 or 3 hours worth of background as she knows it. She's a wonderful historian and a great lady. So Point of Fire, Point of Iron.
It's all home to me.
It's all home to me. Doesn't that sound like the chorus of a great song? Pam, you've been a fixture around here for more than 2 or 3 weeks. Where did you originally come from?
Altona. I'm an Altona girl, born and bred, and married to a Churubusco boy.
This.
Local girl. And then I moved away for a bit for college, and when my husband and I got married, we lived out of the area for a few years, and then we just decided it was time to come home. We wanted to raise our daughter near her grandmother's.
Oh, isn't that neat? Because you've had opportunities to move everywhere and anywhere.
I was offered a job yesterday in Columbus, Ohio. I had a headhunter call me from New Jersey and they were looking for an interior designer in Columbus, Ohio. I said, no, thank you. Like being here.
So you don't want to go down and spend a long weekend just to see what he has in mind?
No, I really don't. I think that the quality of our life here is better than it's ever been, and it has nothing to do with money. It's when you're our families, we're in a place where we feel settled. My husband and I have careers we enjoy, and we like to go to work every day. So that's it.
You know, Calvin and I have preached about that over and over again ad nauseum, but never have I heard it articulated any better than that, because it's true. This quality of life is something that's very special to us, and I do hope that the parameters of our viewing area expand a little bit so people who aren't here and who are sweltering in the big cities can watch this on the first week of July and say, oh my goodness.
I always tell people I live in a postcard.
Yeah.
Because where we live, people live their whole lives and don't see anything that's beautiful. So we're blessed. We really are. People don't take it for granted. I mean, don't appreciate it. They take it for granted, and they see it every day. But I think there are the people who move away and come back. I think we really cherish it because we know we really want to be here. We just aren't here by birth. We're here by choice.
I hope our viewers, who are regular viewers, and thank goodness for all of them for being so supportive, I hope they don't tire of us saying that we love to live here in the North Country, because it is a special place, and it's because of you and Calvin and me and other people that it is a special place, because we really cherish it. Because we cherish it, we want to perpetuate it.
I don't even get tired of the snow. Isn't that sad? I love it. I love the snow.
And neither do I.
So,
although there are times when I've said all those words when it gets really, really deep, but then things get really deep around me. That's the story of my life. So, all right, let's go from girl from Altona. Where in Altona were you born?
I grew up on the Military Turnpike. So.
Okay. My wife was born up in Jericho, which is just over the hill.
Yep.
And went to local schools.
I went to Altona, Northern Adirondack, Plattsburgh State, and then Hood College.
Hood College? I don't know anybody who's been to Hood College. Are there other people who graduated from Hood in this part of the country?
I don't think so. It's in Maryland. It was
I've heard of it, but I've never met anybody.
It's a small ladies' college. Actually, they let gentlemen in now, but when I went, it was all women. And a very good interior design department there.
So this was all of this education was by design, right?
Well,
I gotta throw that stuff in. Did you plan all along to go to Hood at some point, or did you just?
No, I didn't. I actually, that just kind of happened. I planned to do something in the creative field, and that just kind of happened.
Now, since I like to ask this question because I like to see where the seeds of creativity come from. Did you have mom and dad who were pretty creative people?
Well, my father's very creative. When they had the 1970s energy crunch, he was building a car engine that ran on chicken manure. So he was always very creative and very inventive.
Where's Jerus when we need him the most?
Right? And my mom has a craft and quilt shop, and there's my FedEx delivery.
All right, we're going to tell you what we're going to do. We're going to pause and let you take the delivery and pick it up right after that. Oh boy, I'll tell you. What we won't do for special delivery by the FedEx man, hopefully he'll mark that down, and I'm on TV. Mom, I'm on TV. All right, I don't know where. Oh, I know where we were. We're talking about your childhood in Altona and where it all started, and you said your mother had a quilt and craft shop.
Mm-hmm. And she didn't have it then, but she has it now. But the creativity's always been in my family. But my mom bought me my first sewing machine when I was 6.
Oh, boy.
So. Yeah, so I've been sewing ever since.
Real sewing?
It was actually a toy sewing machine, but it really sewed. And I sewed on that till probably about 3rd or 4th grade, and then I started sewing on her machine. And when I was 16, she bought me my first sewing machine, electric sewing machine all to my own.
So did the direction to become a designer, do you think it just kind of progressed through the years, or was something you always knew that you wanted to be and do?
No, I really thought I wanted to study clothing design. And then the interior design sort of evolved in that.
Good at drawing very early?
Yes, and I think that I have a gift that I can look at something in fabric, whether it's on a body or on a piece of furniture or on a window, and just by how it's shaped, I know how it's cut in my head, and I can draft a pattern to make it. So that's my gift.
That's what part of creativity is all about.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes, I guess, from many sources, which I love to explore to see where does this inspiration come from. But there are clods like me who, when they see a piece of cloth, they see a piece of cloth.
See, it's
no idea what the scissors and the stitches might be.
It's like a sculpture. They see a piece of marble and they see the statue inside. Well, I see a piece of fabric and I see what it could be.
Michelangelo said.
Kind of.
Yeah, that's exactly right. See, I love to be a name dropper, throw you right in with the big guys, Pam. So you did a lot of stuff as a teenager. Anything professionally before you went to school?
Oh, yes. I remember when I was in high school, I didn't make my prom dress because I was too busy making uniforms for the Holiday Inn in Plattsburgh.
Oh, my.
So, yeah.
So you actually
worked as a tailor's apprentice. Started that when I was about a junior in high school, doing an apprenticeship.
And then it branched out. Mm-hmm. And then after you went to Hood, you got serious?
Actually, I was doing custom draperies before I went to Hood for interior design. So I already had a a custom workroom business, and then I went back to school for the interior design to learn how to take it one step farther.
I don't think anybody without a certain ability to visualize a finished product could ever do this interior and exterior designing, because when you walk in a room, you have to be able to say in your mind, yeah, I can see and I can see.
You know what? The hardest house to decorate is your own house.
Is that true?
Yeah, because you're emotionally attached to everything, and you see it every day, and you can't see the forest for the trees. I can walk into somebody else's house and immediately feel what needs to be changed or what could be improved. My own house, I have to get friends to come over and say, what do you think? Do you think this couch goes good here? Or do you think I should do this? What do you think? And really trust their opinion, because in your own house it's hard. And you'll see my house is just a mishmash.
I love mishmashes because I feel right at home. I looked at Calvin's kitchen table and I said, boy, I feel at home right here.
Well, I did clean off my dining room table because y'all were coming.
Well, first of all, let's just turn around and look at this house, this log
Thank
home.
you, garden also.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
I love log homes. I always have. I've always dreamed of owning one and never have. The closest I may come is a granddaughter of mine. She and her boyfriend are building one down in Earlville near Chateauguay, and it's in the process.
Well, I had to sleep with the guy that built me this one.
I know.
My husband.
That's only to assuage all the arguments that could have occurred because she designed the house and he built it.
He built it. Yeah, he says
There has to be a certain camaraderie between those elements.
Well, you know what he says? It was my dream house and it was his nightmare house.
Oh, really?
Well, you know, he helped with the help of my dad. They stacked all the logs themselves, and it was a lot of hard work for him.
So this is not your average kit home, then,
No,
huh?
we actually went to a sawmill, the one in Moore's, Don Rogers, and we gave him our floor plan and said, this is our house. And he said, okay, this is what you need for logs, this is what you need for floor trusses, this is what you need for dowels and windows and doors. And he just made a supply list, and as we needed it, he just kept delivering and bringing pallets of logs and the pieces and parts as we needed them.
And how long from
Start to finish?
Start to finish.
About 2 years.
That's not bad, all things considered.
And my husband was going to nursing school full time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it was hard because I was living in Vermont, working as an interior designer in Vermont, and had our daughter over there, and he was here living with my parents and going to school and working, and it was a hard 2 years, but we did it.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, who's going to answer that phone?
well, my assistant's in the office right now, so I think she'll pick it up.
Ooh, wow, assistants in the office. But
It's a slim week for us. So we have 2 girls on vacation this week. My workroom manager's on vacation, and the office manager. So I have Monica with me, who is my design assistant, and she works in the workroom. So
welcome to summertime in the North Country. For those people who are watching this who have never been here to Point of Fair, it's worth a trip because it is a beautiful spot, kind of tucked away right on the northern shores of Lake Champlain. A good spot to drive through and not a bad spot to settle down, although I don't know how much property might be available for building.
not a
up
whole
there.
lot out here on the point. But it's a great place just to come out and visit. There's always wild animals. You always see like a fox or a deer or the blue herons or snapping turtles, or what else do we see? We have turkeys out here. We have partridges. When I'm out in the garden, I can hear the partridges doing their
Can you?
flatter.
Oh, that's so neat.
yeah.
So you like animals and you like flora and fauna.
Yes.
And you know, it's nice if you live here to enjoy all those elements of the North Country that we cherish. And we're the same way because Kay and I have lived right, about this far from the Saranac River for the last 30
God bless you.
years.
Wasn't that scary?
It's always scary in the spring, but that's only a few days of absolute and utter terror and many, many more days of
enjoyment.
Of beauty.
Yes.
I mean, not a day goes by
Water's
that
very soothing, isn't
that
it?
I don't tell somebody how important it is for me. I worked a long time on the radio. Now I work as a victim's advocate, and I listen to some pretty sad stories and hear even sadder stories in courtrooms every day of my life. So we all have to have a way to relax. And my way to relax is to get home in the afternoon, sit out on that enclosed deck, and listen to that river, and watch the river and then see and hear all those things you've mentioned that go by back and forth by my house. And all of a sudden it just takes all that tension and stress and it goes down the Saranac.
That's why we built a house out here. See, we used to have our camp across the road on the lakeside, and when my husband and I were looking for homes, we actually looked at homes to buy, didn't see anything that we liked, and decided to build our own. And we decided to build across the road, but when we built our house, one of the reasons why we went with log is we knew we'd be tearing down our camp, and we didn't want to be without camp, so we sort of tried to make our house feel a little bit campy. So that's why we went with a little more rustic log kind of campy feel.
And believe me, it would be the envy, and probably is the envy of anyone who is watching our little corner, whatever day they happen to be watching it. Do you have other gardens out back, or
I
is
have a
this?
vegetable garden in the back. Would you like to see it?
Well, of course, we'd love to. Let's go there right now. Once again, I'm totally embarrassed by the guests on our little corner who insist on doing everything far better than I can or do. I've talked about my little crop strip, which goes between my house and the fire station, which bears nice fruits and vegetables, but not until much later in the season. So where do we go? To Point of Fair to look at tomato plants that are 4 and 5 feet high with tomatoes that are already ready to turn red, and squashes, and I don't know what all here. What have you got planted in here? This is amazing to me.
We've been harvesting some broccoli already.
Yes.
And we've had a few peas, and the peas are starting to come in really nice.
Oh, those are nice.
We've had lots of onions and radishes, that sort of early stuff. We've picked almost all of our lettuce. We planted romaine lettuce by the head. You can see all the pea pods over there. It's loaded right there.
Oh, look at this.
But we've picked up. We only have 2 heads of lettuce left, so we've planted some more stuff in there. We planted some spinach and some leaf lettuce. You know, second planting. But
thank God your pepper plants are no bigger than mine. At least one thing is the same.
Do you know the secret of growing good pepper plants? Epsom salts.
Okay. I think we ought to go back about those guys coming down to Point of Fair.
Seriously, Epsom salts. If you sprinkle Epsom salts around your plants when they start flowering.
I'm very gullible, so don't mislead me.
Seriously, you get tons of peppers. Tons of peppers. I still have a little bit of pepper
Sprinkle
frozen.
Epsom salts around the... Okay. Because somebody told me that if I cut up a piece of soap, Irish Spring soap, that the creatures, the deer and the creatures wouldn't come and eat my plants.
That's true too.
Well, yeah, but I did that, and they ate the soap and ate the plants and ate the...
The other thing they don't like is moth flakes, mothballs, like the flakes, and sprinkle that around your garden, and then they won't go in your garden. That's what we use. But if you take Epsom salts and sprinkle right around the base of the plant and kind of mulch it in, like we use grass clippings to keep the weeds out, when it starts to flower, you'll get a lot of peppers. Our pepper plants would be this high and we'd have no peppers on them. And a couple years ago, a friend of ours said, oh, sprinkle Epsom salts around the base of your plant, and last year it made all the difference in the world. In fact, when we did it 2 years ago, as soon as we sprinkled Epsom salts, like the flowers turned into fruit because it was flowered, but we weren't getting any fruit on the plants. So it really does work.
That's wonderful. This is called raised bed gardening.
Raised bed garden, and the soil's quite sandy, and because of that, it warms up fast, and we've got good drainage, and because this is all clay here out in the point. I don't know if you knew that.
No, but I do now.
It's all clay. That's why there's no snakes out here.
No snakes.
Why?
Calvin almost stepped on one the other day, and on
That's
Chiota.
one of the reasons why I moved out here, because people who've lived here for 20, 30 years say they've never seen a snake.
Maybe the grizzly bears ate all the snakes. Well, this is a beautiful
There's no bears
garden.
out here.
No bears?
No.
Never saw one.
Nope,
right?
never saw a bear, but I think there's some coyotes in the backyard.
Oh, there are?
Yeah. There's something big. We saw it. It looked like I thought it looked like a wolf. My husband said it was a coyote.
Okay, but neither one of you ran out there in your bare feet with a flashlight to
Nope.
check them out, huh? Well, this is a lovely garden. I'm proud of it. Is this a joint effort between you and your husband, or is this?
Yes.
What's his first name?
Joe.
Joe. Give Joe a little bit of credit for.
No, Joe does all the mulching. He does all the tilling. We plant it together. He tends it more than I do. I think probably he does more work in it maybe than I do. I have to be honest. I do all the work in the flower beds. He does most of the work in the vegetable garden. I help him plan it and decide what's going where, and then.
You do, huh?
Well, we rotate things so that the soil, doesn't get stripped of one element in one area. So.
I found that my wife Gay has done most of the most of the weeding in our garden this year. I just found less and less time to be in it, and that surprises me because in the past we've had some monster gardens away from our little home on the river in Saranac. But this is very nice. You got some nice squashes growing.
Yep. We've got 3 different varieties, and we've got some yellow tomatoes over there, and just a bunch of different things. My husband bought some exotic seeds, so I have stuff planted I don't even know what it is.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And the herbs, where are the herbs?
We've got some herbs over here.
I'll follow you.
We've got some cilantro, some parsley, some basil, and some catnip for the kitties.
Oh, you raise cats?
We have 2
Yeah,
cats, yes.
Kitty cats. No dogs?
Yes, we have a dog. She's at the groomers today, getting beautified.
Okay.
And then we planted potatoes.
Oh.
My husband didn't think we should plant potatoes, but my daughter and I like digging potatoes, so we planted them and we did what we call the potato dance. And you can see it worked because they're coming out very well.
Oh, boy.
No, we have to do it together, and she's
Oh,
not
it's
here.
too bad.
She's babysitting today.
We went to an event on the Old Base Oval a short time ago, and they asked me to get up there and try some of the line dancing, and I had to draw the line. Because
Sometimes you just have to say
I
no.
didn't want to risk serious injury there, but you do have a marvelous garden here.
Thank you.
And I'm sure that if we came back in about a couple of weeks, you'd have some neat stuff ready to...
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to be in Australia for 3 weeks.
Oh, you are?
From August 14th to September 4th.
We're going to pick the
Well,
peas.
I'll say, you come pick all you want while we're gone.
Sure.
Well, the peas will be gone, but the tomatoes will be beautiful then.
Oh, boy, isn't it going to be great? You have the biggest, beautiful, most sturdy tomato plants I have seen anywhere.
We bought our plants, can I say Canada?
Yeah, lots of people do up in Canada, and
Yeah,
some
well, we
people
live
gave
in-
me some cherry tomato plants that I put
We live
in.
so close to the border, it's just easy to get the plants up there.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you're going to have some real neat stuff here. Where would we be if we couldn't watch things grow?
I agree.
See
I agree.
things development, because I'm sure this is part of your nature to want to see something through from the beginning to the
Yeah, I
end.
suppose, yeah.
That part, digging in the dirt is part of it.
Yep,
you know?
I agree. It's therapy.
I believe it's therapy. My mother had the green thumb in the family and passed it down to me, and my wife is a miracle worker when it comes to plants. She believes that, talking to them and standing over them and admiring the beauty of the plants affects them, and it seems to.
Yep, it does.
That's wonderful. All right, what are we going to see next?
Okay, do you want to see where I work?
Yes, we
Let
do.
me take you to my office.
Let's go. I don't think it would be inappropriate to call this the nerve center
That's what my husband
of the home, because this lady is the most wired individual I've ever seen in my life. We're talking with Pam Damour at Point of Fair on the northern end of Lake Champlain, something that we anticipated in doing months ago. We primed all of our viewers far and wide each day. There was something going on, because this is a busy lady.
I am.
She didn't accomplish all she's accomplished by sitting in the rocking chair.
I always say my work eyes are bigger than my work stomach.
That's very good. Similar references have been made to my stomach for completely different reasons. Pam, why do I seem to remember seeing you on Channel 5?
Because I used to be on Channel 5 every week, every Tuesday for about 2.5 years until they had a budget cut. But I'm planning on going back on probably in another month or so. So if anyone sees me and they want Channel 5 to put me back on, give them a call or write them a letter. Because we're working on a new deal to go back on and do a weekly how-to little decorating sewing thing.
Those people who get expanded channels on their local television station often watch a channel called Home and Garden.
Been on that too.
TV. Done that?
Done that?
Oh man, I'm just bringing up all that stuff. Tell me about that experience.
I do work. I have done quite a few segments on a show called Decorating with Style.
Yeah.
And it airs at 10 a.m. in the morning, and I forget what time in the afternoon. It comes on twice a day. And that was a lot of fun. They tape in Nashville, Tennessee. So that was kind of
No,
cool.
that's not too bad.
Yeah, and then I do a lot of stuff for Discovery Channel, a show called Home Matters, and they tape in the Philadelphia area. So
Now, are these things you actively pursue, or do people come knocking at your door? You told me somebody.
usually they call me because I'm kind of busy to pursue that kind of work because you don't get paid for it. It's all gratis. So it's good exposure, but it doesn't pay the bills. So usually when they call me, I'll go down and tape a couple segments.
There is a lot to be said for how you feel at the end of every day, satisfaction. And I'm sure doing those things you say, yeah.
So, some days, yeah. Monica and I, we just finished a great project. My assistant over here, we just finished a big project with the rest of the girls that work here. And when we got done that project, we were feeling pretty good, weren't we, Monica?
Yes.
And no frustration along the way, right?
Oh, there was frustration. But what we did is we decorated some model homes in Plattsburgh. And the great thing about these models was the owner of the development company gave us total free reign on what we wanted to do. As long as,
Don't you love it when that
as long
happens?
as we kept it within his budget, we pretty much could do whatever we wanted. And we really had just a lot of fun. We worked hard. We worked from like 7 in the morning to like 10, 11, 12 at night some nights. And we did this nonstop for about 4 weeks. But it was just when we put the last finishing touches and the photographer came in to take pictures for the brochure, we knew that we did a bang-up job. And
Don't you love it?
yeah.
That's what it's all about. And you know, this program has spotlighted many sparks of genius. And when the sparks start to flow and the juices start to work, you don't go home after 7 or 8 hours.
Right. Well, we have a great team because Monica is very creative and she's got wonderful sewing skills, and she helps me with the creative end of it. She helps me with the fabric research, and she does all the slipcover work and the cushion work. We have Sue, who's basically the backbone of the workroom, and Sue does all of the specialty window treatments and all of the decorative valances and that sort of thing. Then we have Nancy, and Nancy kind of keeps us all in line. Nancy runs the business. She brings in snacks.
Snacks are good.
She yells at us when we're bad, especially me. I always say whenever we have a disagreement in the workroom, one of us always apologizes, and the other one always says, "That's okay, Pam. We forgive you." But anyway, but Nancy keeps us all in line, and Nancy does kick in and sew when we need her. She helps me install. She is just there whenever we need her, and the four of us, the chemistry of the four of us works very well. It's a great team, and we really are blessed to all have each other because we think of each other more like family than we do working. And we don't work. Nobody works for me. We all work together as a team, and they know that it's a team effort.
Yeah, I believe it. We haven't mentioned the true scope of what you do in your career.
Well, I have my full-time interior design business, and we're the largest interior design business north of Glens Falls.
Is that a commercial?
No.
Oh.
So we do. It's not just it's in my house. I want people to realize it's not just a little. I'm not just playing decorator in my house. Yeah. I had a storefront when I was in Maryland, and I won't go that route again. I like when my daughter goes to bed at night and my husband's working in the evening. I like coming down for a couple hours and being in my workspace and having some quiet time. I like that. So I do that, and then Nancy allows me to travel. I get to travel. She says 1 week a month. So in my mind, 1 week a month means 5 business days. So I can stretch that over 2 long weekends. So I usually travel twice a month to go do lectures. This month, in the month of June, I was in Chicago and California. And then most recently, last weekend, I was in Kansas City and Columbia, Missouri.
Now, these are big workshop seminars?
No, these are consumer seminars, and what I'm doing is I'm teaching people how to do professional drapery workroom techniques on a home sewing machine, and I teach these at a hotel or at a store that's sponsored by a sewing machine dealer, and I do all of my teaching for the Viking Sewing Machine Company. So they're all in the Viking sewing machines, teaching them with the feet. I've designed a bunch of feet and accessories for the company, and I go and I show them how to use them in the decorating industry.
Sounds like a lot of logistics here. Where you're going to be next weekend and next month. Do you do all of that part of it yourself?
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much. So, right now, I've got a trip planned in 2 weeks to New York, and then the first part of August, I have to go to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and then off to Australia. And I have 10 days of teaching in Australia.
This is a really tough life she has.
I have 10 days of teaching in Australia. We'll be gone 3 weeks, but 10 days of it is teaching, and my husband and my daughter will be with me.
They have snakes in Australia.
I know they have big snakes, but
big snakes.
Well, we were there and we saw big snakes. We
We're
saw.
St. Patrick when we need him,
I
right?
know. We saw. In fact, my husband came up to the front door. We were at staying with some friends that have a farm out in the bush, and my husband comes to the door and goes, "Honey, look what I have!" And he's holding up like a 5-foot brown snake, which is like the second most deadly snake in Australia.
And after you
It was
unlocked
dead.
the bathroom door and
I was
came
like,
out.
"Oh!" I was like, "What?" He's like, "It's dead." I'm like, "I don't care." You know?
Oh, but you'll love it in Australia.
Oh,
You've
it's-
already tasted that.
It's
right?
pretty fabulous, yeah. So then when I get back, like my itinerary right now for traveling is planned until like next June. My calendar's booked. If someone called me today and said, "I want you to teach a class," I'd be scheduling next July. I'm
Wow.
booked pretty much a year in advance all the
This
time.
means you have to ensure that you stay perfectly healthy every day of your life.
Well, I just keep praying that I do stay healthy, you know. Once in a while I have to travel with a cold or something, but I take my vitamins and get plenty of rest.
Take your vitamins and do your thing. All right, you've done lots of things in your life. You've explained a few of those. You've also written some books
Yeah?
and done some videos because when you have this much talent, folks, it's you're obligated to share it one way or the other.
Well, yes, I guess that would be part of it. I always say I just can't keep my mouth shut, so.
Well, that too. They've said that about me many times. So that's why we seem to have that simpatico sensitivity among us as we do this interview today. And I must say, it's a pleasure to finally meet you and talk to you and see where
You've heard so much about me, right?
all that, yeah, Calvin,
you know
every
that-
other day. She canceled again, Gordy. We
Do you-
can't go.
Do you know what they call me? The Decorating Diva. Actually, no, I call me that, but I figure if I do it long enough, someone else will.
I can just see that on a brochure somewhere.
No, that is my nickname in the Viking
Oh, it
industry
is?
because I'm the only one that teaches decorating for the company. So I'm the Decorating Diva.
But that's what I said about satisfaction. And of course, you blow your own horn. That's the idea of this
There you go.
program, to let people know what you do. But when you're as good as this, it's not that you go like this. It's that you're grateful to have that energy
And I
that
share
ingenuity.
it. And I share it. That's the thing. When I go out and teach, I share my creativity with other people. And people don't realize when you have a gift, the more you share it, the bigger that gift becomes. Because when you share, people share back. And when I teach these seminars, these ladies think I know everything about decorating if they realize how many mistakes I've made along the way and how much of the stuff that I know has actually been shared with me by other people. Because I'll say, you know, someone shared this with me. This is an idea. The ladies that work for me, they're always, you know, we all always come up with a new idea sometimes. Sometimes I'll say, you know, do it this way, and they'll misunderstand me and do it a different way, and it's a better way than what I told them. And so then we start doing it that way. So it's great because we've been doing it for so long now, and we do it so full time. And like a lot of people who teach in my industry, they may teach decorating, but they don't live it every day. So when I'm not teaching it, I'm here living it. And I think the two jobs, the traveling and teaching, that part feeds my creativity, and I don't get designer burnout because when you're in a creative industry, it's really easy to burn out. And so when I travel, my creative juices get really jazzed, and then when I come back, I'm really excited. And I come back. What's the first thing you guys always ask me when I come back? Are you tired? They say, "Are you tired?" And what do I usually say? No. Yeah. Yeah, because even though I work hard, maybe I'm physically tired. You know, when you can be physically really exhausted, but if you're excited about something, that overrides the physical fatigue. And so that's part of, you know, the two jobs that I do together. I think it took a while for my husband and even the girls here to understand that because I go out and do that traveling thing and they're without me, when I come back, it makes me a better person to be here because I'm in a better mood. I feel more creative. Things come to me, and you know, that quiet time in the plane, that quiet time in the hotel room, those are times when I say my little friend comes to visit me, the sewing fairy. You know, when I'm sleeping and I wake up in the middle of the night and I get this sewing epiphany and I say it's a sewing fairy that
You
whispers.
didn't know this was a religious show, did you?
The sewing fairy,
the s-
the sewing fairy whispers stuff.
sewing epiphany?
Yes, the sewing
Wow,
fairy whispers
the
stuff in my
sewing
ear.
fairy.
She also comes.
Epiphanies.
She also comes when I'm driving down the road. Usually I have to be by myself when she comes, and she comes when I'm driving down the road, which kind of surprises me because when I'm in the car, no one wants to be in the car with me when I'm driving. But she's not afraid of me.
Is bizarre come to mind? I love it.
But I get a
I
lot.
love it.
When I get a creative idea, I usually act on it, and I come back, and sometimes I'll stay up all night just tweaking out a design that's in my head.
That's the way it happens. Some of the greatest music and poetry and literature and art has been produced by people who woke up in the middle of the night and rushed to the easel
Yep.
with a typewriter. That's the way it works. And it's, when I said before, none of us are selfish enough to think that we can do it all.
That's right.
But we, you know, it's coming from somewhere out there,
Right.
and we're grateful every time the faucet opens, right?
That's right. That's right.
Wow. This is neat. Now let's talk about some of this stuff. How about, let's start
These
with
are
the video.
videos that I produced back about 10 years ago now, but I still get calls for them all the time. They're on what I call no-sew decorating. They're for people who don't know how to sew, because, you know, you may find this hard to believe, there are people in the world that don't sew every day.
Yeah, like about 90% of the world's population.
You know, not the people I hang out with, because we all sew.
Yeah.
And, you know, sewing is my passion, but these are just some decorating ideas for people who don't sew.
Now, how did these come about?
Well, these are actually companion videos to seminars that I teach. And when I would teach my seminars, people would say, "Do you have a video on this? I'd sure like to see a video." Well, you need to hear that about 100 times, and you go, "Hey,
Oh, boy.
I can make a video and sell it." I actually sell these on QVC.
Yep.
And that's paid for the hot tub in the backyard. I don't know if you noticed that.
You think I didn't notice the hot tub before I noticed your log house?
So anyway.
Yes, I did.
So anyway, these are, but we still sell them. Occasionally someone will call and order one. I've written some books for simplicity. I actually wrote 4 books, but they're out of print now, so that's kind of sad. So I am working on a new book, and I'm self-publishing that, so I can decide.
Oh, is that why you said, why don't you
Yeah,
self-publish your
because
stuff?
I can determine how long it's going to be available and how many copies I'm going to make, and I can control it. That's why I'm going to
And
self-publish
you
it.
will have a ready market already, because
I
you're
do.
so well known
I
in
do.
the industry.
Yes, I have people who, every class I have people saying, "Well, when's the book coming out? When's the book coming out?" So this is a magazine that did a cover story on me. And that was sort of an honor, because what they were saying, they were basically saying this is like being honored by your peers as being a leader in your industry. And the article that they wrote inside, which even though this is 1992, 9 years ago, things haven't changed much. It's called Teaching Her Trade, and I'm still doing that.
Oh,
Although
look at this.
my daughter, who's now 13
Oh,
and
my
as tall
goodness.
as me, was just a peanut there. So,
Is she picking up?
oh, she sews beautifully. Calvin saw a quilt she did last year in the quilt show. She took a blue
No
ribbon
kidding.
in the
Oh,
quilt show.
That's so
She is a beautiful sewer. She really is. She's
She's
really got a
beautiful
gift.
young lady, too. What else?
This is another book. Actually, this one's still available. This is a book I wrote with a few other decorators. And then these are our new patterns that are out now. I have a pattern for one of my more popular valances that I teach in my drapery school. And once we've recouped our printing costs in this, we'll come up with some more.
That's the way it goes. And these are other magazines.
Those are some little
More
booklets. These are booklets that I wrote for Simplicity Pattern Company. These are not available anymore. These are some that were published about. This was the first one, and this is the last one. There were 2 more in between, and they came out from like 1993 to 1995. But they've no longer, with like a company like this. Once they stop printing them, I can't get any more of them. So.
Do you, when you go out for one of these seminars, is each one far different from the previous one, or are you like teaching a course year after year
Well,
where you just tweak it?
My programs, I am always developing new programs. One of the things that I do when I go to a company for the first time is I do a trunk show. I have a huge suitcase full of samples, and I demonstrate the techniques that were done in each sample. And that changes. Usually I try to make a new sample, about one a month, and put that in and pull something out. So I'm rotating the trunk so it's always fresh and new. And my programs, even though I might have, like last week in Kansas City and in Columbia, I had 3 days of the same program. But even though I was 3 days teaching the same program, I was teaching to different crowds. I get asked different questions. So when that happens, sometimes they'll ask me about a technique that I have not shown the day before, but because they asked about it, I usually have enough stuff there, you know, the fabric, the trims, and the accessory feet, and I show them how to do that technique. So my program never feels canned because I feed off the audience.
There are quite a few people who do what you do on the face of the earth. I'm
There are.
sure there's no one who does it as well, but
I'm
you,
sure.
but, do you,
Actually, for the Viking Sewing Machine Company.
Miss Modesty?
No, I'm teasing. In the company that I work for, the Viking Sewing Machine Company, I am the only one who teaches home deck solely and does the whole home deck thing.
Wow,
Because
that's impressive.
see, the problem is most of the people that are in my industry are busy working in their decorating business, and you can be a very good sewer, you can be a very good designer, but that doesn't make you a good teacher. And you can be a good teacher and not be a good sewer. I mean, I know people that are very good teachers that teach sewing, and I don't ever see them sit at the sewing machine because they teach technique and they don't demonstrate. But they teach it. So there are different ways to teach. My teaching method is that I show the sample, I demonstrate the technique, and show them how to make it. And people really like that I actually sit and sew. And when they see me break needles and do all kinds of stuff.
But it isn't just, as I guess we've pointed out over and over again, it isn't just reading what other people before you and your peers are doing. It's inventing. Because this is a process of invention.
What I've done is I've taken techniques that I learned 20 years ago in the drapery workroom on an industrial machine, and I've changed them to fit the Viking world, the company that I work for, because that sewing machine is so state-of-the-art and has so many more features than an industrial sewing machine that I'm letting the machine do the work. It's like golfing. Do you golf?
No.
Well, for people who
But
golf,
I'm very interested in watch it and love
for people who golf or no golf, you basically use the same stroke and you change your club to fit where the lie of your ball is. You know how far you are from the hole. You use until you get up and you putt. You're using a similar stroke usually most of the time when you're shooting. Well, what I do is I basically use the same sewing technique, but I change the foot, or I change the needle position, or I change the stitch, and I let the machine do the work, rather than try to do it the hard way.
But you still do hand sewing.
I do hand sewing, yes. I still quilt. I love to quilt.
Quilting is wonderful. That's talk about history here in the North Country and elsewhere.
Yes, that is true. I have a mother-in-law who's forgotten more about quilting than I'll ever know. She's fabulous. She's my quilting mentor. She's wonderful.
I've been to quite a few of those anti-quilt shows, and you're so impressed. And you transport yourself back in time and picture those ladies at the quilting bee all the way around doing something 150 years ago.
Even quilting technology has changed so much just in the last 5 years. Quilters are getting very, very sophisticated. They're getting real high tech. Quilters they're doing some really fabulous stuff,
Oh, that's neat.
It's still fun doing it the old-fashioned way, but it's fun doing it the high-tech way,
sure.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, because, the past, the present, and the future all has to go together. This book is full of all kinds of neat
Yeah, that's sort of my
things.
brag book, yep.
The brag book.
Yep.
Is there anything special in there that we should look at?
Oh, I'm trying to think of what was really...
Yeah, like everything.
You know
Just
what?
flip the pages.
There's something, let me think of where it was here. Here's an article that was written on The Point, and this is a boathouse, and I actually did this bed canopy years and years ago. That was quite a long time ago, and it's kind of cool seeing that, and I did some draperies at The Point.
I love it.
Yeah, have you ever been out to The Point?
No.
Are you familiar with it?
Yep.
It was the Rockefeller camp. So that's something that I did locally. A lot of this stuff is stuff that was done when I lived in Maryland. We did a lot of model homes, and we did this was a country club that we decorated, and this was a smart house. It was a totally automated house.
Yep.
That were all computerized. Some articles that I wrote for trade magazines and trade shows that I lectured at, that kind of thing. College that I taught at.
Yeah.
Just different stores that I taught at, and that kind of thing. So.
That's really neat. What can we look at next?
Would you like to see one of my sewing techniques?
Yes, we would.
Okay.
Let's do
Let me
it.
show you what I do when I teach my seminars, okay?
Okay, you can explain what you're doing and then do it for us.
This is one of the feet that I designed for the company. It's a welt cord foot, and it has a deep groove. Actually, I didn't design it. sent them my welt cord foot from my industrial machine and said, "This is the foot I want you to make for this machine." And so they did. So I'm going to put that on. These just snap right on.
For those of you who didn't know, the Husqvarna made sewing machines.
They also make
I thought they
chainsaws.
made chainsaws. I had no idea.
They make the best sewing machines in the world. They've been making sewing machines for over 130 years.
I had no idea. So they make them for Viking. Okay.
Well, see, Husqvarna means Viking. Yes, and when
Okay.
when Husqvarna came to the States, I don't know, like 120 years ago with their sewing machines, they thought Americans couldn't pronounce Husqvarna. So they named their American division Viking. So
Okay.
that's it.
I
That's
got it.
now what I'm going to do here is I have what's called a sewing advisor, and this is all a color touch screen. So I'm going to go to my sewing advisor. I'm going to tell it what my fabric is and what my sewing technique is, and it will automatically adjust my pressure foot pressure, my feed, my tension. You know, in the old days, if you were sewing, they said, "Oh, don't touch your tension." Well, the tension adjusts automatically for the stitch that I want and for the fabric that I'm using. So I'm ready to go. Now, if I just sew straight down here, it's going to make a beautiful welt cord. Do you notice my foot goes down by itself? There's no lift. I can just sew like that, and it sews beautifully out by just like that. But if I were going to make welt cord, and I have little scissors that cut the thread for me. Okay. Now, in my I use navy blue thread so that you could see my stitching here. In a real life situation, this makes beautiful welt cord, but if I had to sew this into a pillow, then I need to worry about hiding that stitching, because even if it would be the natural color to match the fabric. So what I'm going to do is I have 25 needle positions, and this is how I would teach this. I'd show them how to do the needle position, how to set their machine, and I'm moving the needle over 2 positions to the right. In doing so, when I go to sew this welt cord onto a pillow or the edge of a drapery or a bedspread, whatever I'm sewing it onto, now when I sew it on, this for my fabric here, what I would do now is move the needle over 1 position closer to the left, and that makes me sew in between my old stitching line and my cord. So I don't know if you can see that, there's 2 rows of stitching. So this way, when I fold this back, you don't see the stitching line. Now I have 1 more position, so I can even bring it closer so that when I sew the back of the pillow to the front, it will even be closer and you won't see that stitching line either. And that's just one of the little techniques that I teach.
That's beautiful.
Okay?
I'm sure I didn't learn a thing, but I learned that it's fun to watch you, and I also learned that sewing machines are pretty sophisticated.
They're very sophisticated. This one has 5 speeds. It tells you before the bobbin runs out of thread. If you break a needle or break your needle thread, it tells you. It has an automatic threader, automatically cuts your thread. It has a disk drive, a built-in disk drive. So, whoops, I just put my finger there. So if you wanted to, there's a floppy disk in there right now. I don't know what was on there, but there's, I think this is Monica's initials. But if I wanted to do embroidery, I would take embroidery designs off my computer and just pop them in, and then I can stitch them out. So it's quite sophisticated.
Hopefully this program will act as a bit of an inspiration for people who like that other person you were mentioning a while ago who hasn't sewn since high school.
I think sewing is just such good therapy. People don't realize, but sewing actually is very good for your mental health. It lowers your blood pressure. People who suffer depression find that sewing is a good therapy for them. So I don't see why. I can't understand why someone wouldn't sew every day.
Are there classes taught in this area all the time? Do you teach classes here?
Know, but there are other places, quilt shops. I know in Plattsburgh, the places that sell sewing machines have classes, ongoing classes, and I am available for classes. I do classes like for local church group ladies and that sort of thing. But there are classes going on. I don't have anything right now scheduled in the area, but I'm working on some stuff for the fall.
I wouldn't be surprised if there are good instructional videos besides yours. No?
I don't know. I know that this company has instruction videos on how to use the machines, but I don't know if there's good sewing instruction of it. You know what? I know that some of the PBS shows, the sewing shows, you can buy the companion videos. So I would think that would really help. But maybe I should have someone produce a video for me. Do you know anyone in the video work?
Think about that for a minute, Mr. Calvin.
Because maybe I could really use a good sewing video right
You
now.
notice a little quavering in the camera lens right there. He's got creative juices that are flowing now too.
The little video fairy just visited him, huh?
Needed today. He is very good at what he's done, and
Yes,
he's
he
been
is.
doing that since 1983, almost before you were born.
Oh, God bless you.
So what is the next, what have you got a big project you're working on right now that you can reveal to us? I mean, what happens in
Right
here on
now-
a daily basis?
Well, let me see. Right now, when you guys leave, let me walk. Can I walk you over here?
Well, sure, I'll follow you anywhere.
Right now, Monica is working on. This is a fairly big project for Monica. She's been working on this for a couple of weeks now. This is a lady in Lake Placid, and I won't give you any names because I protect the identity
Sure.
of my clients. But this lady lives in Lake Placid, and she's a really cool lady. She lives on the back side of the lake on the western shore. So when we go out to call on her, she picks us up in her 1937 Chris Craft.
Oh, you gotta love it.
She's a very cool lady. She's 81, and she is just, I think she and I are kindred spirits. I want to be like her when I grow up.
Oh, God.
But these are some patio cushions for her house out on the lake, and it's a traditional, very picturesque Adirondack camp with the leaded glass and the big stone fireplace and the bearskin rug and the whole works, huh, Monica? And guest cottages, and the place is the house. What did you say? There's a butler's quarters and a maid's quarters and
A west wing.
a west wing, and it's a pretty big house. It's a pretty big house. So this is for her. This project is going to be installed this afternoon right in Mouse's Point. We actually made draperies and a valance for the living room, and this is going in the dining room. These are some valances that need to be mounted on a board. These are for a client in Lake Placid. So with the matching draperies. And these are some swags and jabots for another client in Ross's Point. Oh, this is a client in Champlain. Her valance we need to put up. So these are all things waiting to be installed. We hang them up like this so they don't get wrinkled when we're ready to get them out.
You know, it dawns on me that you do small projects and large projects.
Mm-hmm.
What's the most ambitious thing?
Well, I think those 2 model homes we did recently was quite ambitious because it was a situation where we had our first meeting with them and they said, we want to use you. Can you do it all in 4 weeks? And and we did that
Let me
with
see. Sleeping once every third day.
And not only that, Sue went out on medical leave, and so she was out almost the whole time. So we were one person short. We had our main seamstress who did all the window treatments out. So we all had to pull extra shifts. So that was pretty ambitious. We just finished a funeral home in the Peru area, and that was quite exciting. It was a big project
I got
for us.
good reports back from the open house.
Yes. Did you
I
see them?
did.
Did you go and see that?
I didn't make it
it's
that day.
beautiful.
You know, attending open houses at funeral homes is not necessarily what you might plan for on a given weekend.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll
but
tell you
apparently a lot of people did because this particular people, they have a lot of friends.
This place is
And
so pretty.
that's all I heard, people raving about it.
You
So
know
you
what?
must have done a good
This
job.
place is so pretty. I think I'm going to ask if I can have my daughter's wedding reception there. It's so pretty.
Once again, the word bizarre comes to my mind.
It is a beautiful room and it's large.
Don't tell your daughter till she's at least 19.
But it's a beautiful room, and I'll tell you what, for funerals, I wish they were closer here, and you know, if they were closer here, we would definitely use them for our arrangements because, you know, they really are. They're a wonderful family, but their home, the funeral parlor is just great. We're actually working on a store right now in Lake Placid, right on the main street of Lake Placid, and it's kind of a cool business. It's, can I say the name of it?
Oh, sure.
It's called Body and Soul, SOLE. It's clothing and shoes.
That's a clever
Isn't that
name.
cute?
Isn't that amazing?
And we're going in where the Swiss shop was in Lake Placid, so we had to do all the carpet and the furniture and accessories and all of that. So we're working on that too. In fact, that green fabric is for tablecloths for some display tables in their store, and that's going to go in next week. So
For those people who just turn their televisions on, I always admonish you to check somewhere for your local listing in a newspaper or somewhere as to when this program might air, because we do a lot of interesting things. And if you're like I am and you're tooling through the thing with the clickers, my wife calls it, and you see somebody you're interested in on a television channel like Pam Damour and Monica, and then all of a sudden I say, and who knows, we're going to be next time for our little corner, and it's done, and they say, oh no, I missed it. So for those people who just joined us, this is Pam Damour, and we're talking about her life and career here in the North Country, doing this wonderful designing and decorating. And the word passion is one of my favorite words, because if you can't have a passion for what you do, I can't even imagine what it's like to drive, as some people do in metropolitan areas, to a business or a large factory where they can't stand it and they have an overbearing boss that's on their case. And they work for and they worked for 35 years, and I had a good friend who did this in New York City. I use him as an example, God rest his soul. And, he told me one day, this is terrible, they're on my case, this is the city I'm fighting, on Long Island Railroad and a Long Island Expressway. And all of a sudden, a couple of days later, he went out for lunch, had a heart attack and died on the street, and people stepped over him for over an hour before anybody looked down and say, oh, that man's not getting up. And if that's what life has got to be all about, I'll move to Point of Fair any
that's
day.
right. That's right.
That's why we so much crow about our existence up here.
Yep.
I think what this program proves, among a multitude of things, is that you can work yourself right into a frenzy and still go to bed with a smile on your face.
There you go.
You can do what you want to do.
Would you like to see a sample of some of my work upstairs?
Of course we
Okay,
would.
let's
do that. If you think that's the Rouse's Point train station, you're wrong again. It's the Point of Rocks.
Point of Rocks train station in Point of Rocks, Maryland. Yes.
And that's where you were before. It
That's
certainly
where we
does,
used to live,
does
yep.
look like Rouse's Point.
It does, doesn't it? Yes. And maybe the same architect went through the country, because you see a lot of them of that period that look very similar. So
It's very, very possible. All right, what space are we in, as they say in the business?
This is what we call the great room, and when we designed the house, or when I designed it, a lot of homes now are getting away from the formal living room, dining room area, and it's like whenever you entertain, everybody ends up in the kitchen anyway. So by making the kitchen, all of this space, then I'm not away from everyone when I'm in the kitchen. So that was kind of my idea. I wanted to, when I was standing here cooking, see, I don't do dishes, so I don't like to look out the window when I do dishes, but when I cook, I wanted to see the lake. So that's why we put our stove in the peninsula here, so that I could see the lake. And it works out really good. And I feed my girls lunch every day. That's one of the perks. So when I'm here, not when I'm out of town. When I'm out of town, they go out to eat lunch. But I feed them lunch, so it's almost like being, a short order cook here, and I just feed them. And
I see your furniture is a mixture of modern and antique.
It is. It's what I call rustic chic.
Rustic chic. I love it.
So, yeah, we've got some antiques and some newer stuff, and we're just a real mixture.
Do you like antiques?
I do. Not as much as I used to. I think I just want well-made furniture, and if it's an antique, so be it. If not, I'd just rather get a well-made new piece.
Because some people, when they build a house like this and build a room, they envision what they want. And if they envision a piece of 200-year-old furniture that was made in South Carolina,
Yep.
they're going to go there and knock on doors until they
find it. Yeah, that's it. I didn't have any vision of what I wanted when I moved in, or when we designed the house. One of the things I always wanted that I've never had was a pantry, so that was one of the...
Well, let's get Calvin over here and peek in the
And
pantry.
I love my pantry.
Houses, most houses over 100 years ago always had pantries.
Yes,
for
and
a
they're
very
starting to
good-
come back, too.
And they are, in
They're
one
coming-
form or another.
This is another cool thing. You see, if I make a mess when we're having entertaining...
sliding doors.
Yeah. When I put pocket door in the floor plan, every time I put pocket door, my husband said that was a 4-letter word, but he did a great job on them.
For those people who don't know about old houses, pocket doors were very common to to separate the various spaces normally on the main floor.
You don't need to allow for a door swing that way.
And unfortunately, many of those pocket doors were abandoned over the years for one reason or another. So when we go into a home, somebody has an operating pocket door, I say, oh, isn't that neat?
This is our TV room.
Okay.
But when I designed the house, I did it with the idea that if my husband and I get to the point where we don't want to climb stairs and we're only going to live on one floor, this could be a second bedroom.
Oh, my goodness. This is my clock. What are you doing
My
with
husband-
my LL Bean
My husband,
clock?
that was his clock when we got married.
Is it really?
Yeah, yep.
Oh,
The time to plant your seed clock.
it's the time to plant your seed clock. Let me show people, because everything is written down there. And when I saw that, see the Burpee Seed Company, the
Yeah.
oldest seed company in America.
Yeah.
And when I saw that in the LL Bean catalog, I'm a clock nut. And I said I have to have that one. And about 2 mornings ago, as we're recording this in early July 2001, as I was eating my breakfast and reading the paper, and everything's on a very second-by-second schedule for me in the morning, so I get to work at a certain time. I looked up, and the clock said 10:15. And I said, what's wrong with this picture?
The battery went
The
dead.
battery.
Yep.
So, of course, to change the battery, you don't just slide the back off. You have
You
to,
unscrew it,
you
yeah.
have to take that little,
Back.
find a little Phillips screwdriver at 6 o'clock in the morning when you can't see. Take the back off and put the new battery.
Well, I jokingly refer to this room as the dead animal room because this is where my husband keeps his trophies. He's got his fish, and
Is there a story behind that amazing guitar?
that's called a dobro.
It's a dobro.
It's a metal guitar, and I don't.
Very
it's
special
it's
sound.
very special. It's my husband's. He doesn't play it. It's something that he
No,
got from his
doesn't
dad,
have
I believe.
Doesn't
Not-
have enough strings on it.
Not really
It couldn't
sure what the
possibly.
story is, but I just hung it on the wall there to keep it out of the way so it wouldn't get banged up.
Yeah, see, it got my attention immediately. The dead animal.
Yeah. Now this is a brown trout my husband got fishing. He was fishing in Pulaski for salmon.
Oh,
And this-
that's almost as big as some of the salmon they get.
And
Holy
this
mackerel.
bass, I believe, I'm thinking this came out of Lake Champlain, but I don't remember where he got that, unless he got it up in Lake Rideau in Ontario. And then this snow goose and this pheasant were right out here in the point.
What's with the little package hanging
My
from
daughter likes to put little ornaments hanging on them. She's got that's just her. She likes to hang stuff on them.
Okay, I knew there had to be a story behind the little ornaments hanging on
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
It's that decorating flair. It's
It's
welling up inside her.
Yeah, she's a character.
Oh my God, is that a fairly recent picture?
Yes, that's
of
her
it?
recent school picture. Well, let me see. Yes, that's her most recent school picture, and then the other one's when she was little. She was
You,
about
you
three.
have the one daughter?
The one daughter, yes. I got a girl the first time, so I didn't have to have any more.
Oh, isn't that neat? So this is kind of a fun room. This, I might add that this little PlayStation and table over here wasn't made
No,
day before yesterday.
that's an antique children's desk and chair, and my daughter was about 3 or 4 when I bought it. She's too big for it now, but she just leaves her stuff on there.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
I love
Let me
things
show
like
you the
that.
guest room.
Okay, this is a great little room. Oh, nice desk over in the
I
corner.
have a little too much furniture in here, but I have some pieces I don't want to part with, so
These are great beds.
they are.
Oh,
These were
great.
in my house in Saranac Lake. We had a pair of them, and we
You
had.
lived in Saranac
I used to
Lake?
have a house in Saranac Lake, and these were in the house when I bought. My mom and I bought a house together, so they were in my home there, and they were in my daughter's room, but she wanted one big bed, so we switched. And these are these are really cool shades. We put these in our guest room. These give privacy, and they roll up with their own headrail, so they're kind of fun.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah. See my husband's wood pile for the next couple of years.
Yeah, we stood out behind the
it's
wood pile.
a great view, so we just put the shades down.
You could just haul it in through the window.
There you go.
Lazy in the wintertime. Every bed, now this is called,
This is a cure chair.
and
It's just a real Adirondack cure chair, and my house in Saranac Lake actually was an Adirondack cure cottage. But this cure chair was actually from my girlfriend's father's house in Lake Placid, and I bought it when they sold out when they did their estate sale for a couple reasons. First, it belonged to one of my dearest, oldest friends, and I wanted it to stay in someone's family that she knew and loved, and also because my husband's a nurse and because it's a cure chair, and I had a cure cottage This is kind of a cool
And many,
piece.
many of our viewers may not be aware that people came from far and wide to be cured of tuberculosis
To Saranac Lake.
to
Yep.
Saranac Lake in years past.
Yep, from about 15 till maybe the 60s, maybe.
For a long, long time. So to see a cure chair, in other circles it might be called a fainting.
Painting couch or
County-
chaise.
And I want to, Calvin, make sure you come past Pam and take a picture of the chamber pot because they have a great part in Americana in our history.
I thought that was a soup tureen.
Is that
No.
not my kind of soup, lady?
I'm not going to lift the lid.
No.
I had a friend, a lady friend, who's an elderly friend who's passed away now, but she used to call it a night vessel.
A night vessel. Isn't that tender and sweet? Yes, I'm very familiar with them, having lived in houses without all the accoutrements of modern plumbing in my childhood. I'm following you. What's this? Wow.
That's an antique sewing machine. I don't know if you noticed, there's a lot of sewing memorabilia scattered around the house.
I did notice that.
Hunting and fishing and sewing. So this is an antique sewing machine, and this is an antique pin box.
Oh, yes, I've seen those.
Someone thought that would be a good, or pin cube they call it, instead of a pin cushion. I guess it was somebody's idea, and obviously it never took off because they still don't make them. But here's
I
another.
have seen those before, and that probably dates almost back to the Civil War era. No?
I don't know, but they're
I
fairly
think so.
old. I don't know.
I think so.
So I probably shouldn't leave it out because my daughter's little friends come and they play with it and they stick the pins in and out of it. And
Little teeny tiny pins.
then of
bigger
course
pins.
this is very cool too.
I loved it.
This was given to me by a client in Vermont. She said she bought an antique shop. She bought a storefront in St. Albans that was the general store and had an antique shop there. And this is full of antique sewing machine needles.
Oh,
We now see. Usually you can open them when it's dry in here, but with the humidity, these are.
Yep.
They've swollen here. I don't know if I can get any of these open. Oh, this one open. See the antique sewing machine needles?
Oh, golly.
So it's pretty cool.
That's a treasure, huh?
Yeah, it really is. And because I love to sew.
Of course.
And these are needles that you can't find for the
Needles,
antique
shuttles, and bobbins for
Yeah.
your machine.
Yeah, and so you just go to the machine that you want. This has a dial. Actually, there's a nail back there holding this up so it doesn't turn. But normally, you turn this to the place you want, and wherever you turn it to, you see you open. Then you open up the little window, and you've got to see. There's no more 9s left. It's just 8s. So maybe bring it up to 6 right here. See the 6s right there.
Yeah.
You bring it to the window that you want, and then it opens up in that spot.
That's just absolutely wonderful.
Now, when I designed the house, I wanted 9-foot ceilings because with the exposed beams, I didn't want the ceiling to be coming down on us. And I wanted this foyer open. And this is a quilt my mother-in-law made me.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, my, my,
It's
my.
all hand quilted, hand appliqued.
Look at this. And this is a big quilt.
I always tease her and tell her that I'm her favorite daughter-in-law and I have the quilt to prove it. But she's actually made all of us a quilt. She's quite a treasure.
Oh, I love it.
And then this is our master bedroom.
Oh, this is great.
And this is the quilt that Calvin liked.
That's the prize winner. The blue ribbon prize winner.
Actually, the hometown cable prize winner.
Oh,
It took a second place at the show.
that's a live kitty cat, too.
Yeah, sitting next to Dead Fox.
Well, maybe they're somehow kindred spirits. Oh, beautiful. How long did it take you to make that quilt?
A couple years.
Did it?
Yeah. Let me just show you. This is our view here.
Goes down instead of up.
Yeah, it's a great feature, and it's really nice because if I want to get changed, I can just raise it part way up, and I can still see the lake, and I don't lose my privacy. So it's a great feature. It's good being in the business. You know all the ins and outs of this stuff. So.
It's really neat. Was this a window your design? This the way this setup was,
Yeah.
or
Originally, I wanted like a half circle and then quarter circles here. And my husband said, "I'm not going to be able to cut those curves into those logs, honey. So go straight." So I said, "Okay." So it was really a combination of our designs.
there's so many things in this room. I'm just looking around and enjoying them all. So you did it the way you liked
Yeah,
it,
we
huh?
still covered the little chair here, and we made all the pillows, and this is a big duvet cover we put on in the wintertime, but in the summer we take the full time.
That's an old trunk.
This is an old Louis Vuitton trunk I got at a yard sale.
Did you really?
Yep. The lady
You can
wanted
still do that?
the lady wanted $40 for it, and I got her down to $30. and then it appraised for $5,000.
Did it really?
Yeah. So.
Oh.
Although I really don't think it's worth that much. I mean, it's only $5,000 if someone wants to buy it.
Well, go on the road. The Antiques Roadshow would
Yeah.
love to have you
There
carry
you
that
go.
in somewhere.
There you go. But
Trunks are hot right now.
yeah, and it's kind of cool, but it needs some work. So.
So do I. I don't know how cool I am either. But this is a beautiful room. I like the high
And
ceilings.
then we have 2 walk-in closets,
That's neat.
and this is our master bath.
Oh boy.
And we don't have the jets in our tub because we have the outside hot tub, and I have a little photo gallery.
United in Love, August 8th, 1987.
1987. Yeah, 14 years.
14
And
years.
again, another pocket door. And
Oh,
the one thing I wanted is I didn't want to go down to the basement to do my laundry, so we put our laundry room upstairs in between our 2 bathrooms. This is my daughter's bathroom,
oh, isn't this great?
and keep in mind she's a teenager, so she's
Oh, yes, I do.
and this is her room.
Far neater than any of my teenagers' rooms ever
Well,
were.
she's
Did I
actually
tell
been
you
doing a
that?
pretty good job. I did come in and vacuum this morning.
Oh, you
But-
did, huh?
I was doing these window treatments for another client, and she fell in love with them, so I surprised her and made one for her too,
Oh,
with the
God.
puffy clouds
You
and
are
the
a
stars.
good mommy.
Yeah,
Isn't
it
that
was fun. I gave it to her for her
beautiful?
birthday. It was kind of fun.
Now, was this your own design or something?
Yes, this client in Plattsburgh, her daughter's about the same age as my daughter, and they wanted to do the whole theme of the room in clouds and stars, kind of celestial. And this is a sheet, and so she wanted to do it in blues and yellows. So I found the companion fabric to the pale yellow pattern to go with that pattern, and I sketched it out for the client and said, then we can have these stars. And the stars, actually, you can take them off. They're on little pin backs so they can be moved.
Oh.
So I showed the design to the client and her daughter's like, I really like it, Mom. So they went for it. And then when my daughter saw me making them, she was like, she said, how come everyone else gets all the cool stuff? So I made her one.
They know how to whine, don't they?
Yeah,
They
well.
know just how to whine. Now, you see, when one of my kids were small, or maybe 2 of my kids were small, they wanted that celestial design. And I certainly wasn't clever enough to come up with this. So, for some reason, there was a sale on little stars and luminescent
That you stick
stars
on
and
the ceiling.
moons and things that you stick on the ceiling.
She used to have those, but we repainted
we
the
had
ceiling and we took them
Not
down.
one, not 2, but 20 or 30,000 of those little things on the ceiling.
All the comfort.
Every night when you shut the light off and you tuck the child in bed, you see all these twinkling on your ceiling. Very difficult when it comes to repaint or paper.
Yes, I know, because when we had to
Something-
paint, we had to pick them all off, and I said to her, well, I said, you can put them back on if you want to, but you're going to have to paint yourself next time, so she decided to leave them off.
That's a great space.
Yep. So this is her room. And what we did, too, is we just did this at Christmas time. This is her big Christmas present. We had our builder come in and do built-in dressers for her, so she has these huge big drawers.
Yeah, great.
They're real deep. See, the bottom, these drawers are deeper to fit into the angle.
Oh, isn't that
Yeah.
a clever idea?
Yeah, so
Who would ever dream?
So the top drawer, as you go down, each drawer gets bigger, and then back here there's an access panel for storage. And so now it sort of comes out to sort of be like a nightstand too. And she's got the bigger bed, so
Oh, what a marvelous
Instead of
idea.
3 beds.
Yep.
And she's got more dresser space. That made her room bigger.
And this bed also wasn't made the year before
No,
last.
that's an antique Jenny Lynn bed.
Those Jenny Lynn beds bring back pleasant memories for me because we had them in various houses. Sometimes they were rope beds.
This originally was a rope bed. You look under. Oops, you can't
I can-
see.
Well, I can see on the ends.
There it is. That's where it is. Yep.
They,
See on the ends there.
many of our younger viewers may not be aware of what
Some-
rope beds were.
Yeah, you
The
just.
fact that mattresses were sometimes made of feathers and corn
straw,
husks
yeah.
or straw.
Were just strung with rope, and the mattress just sat on the rope. That's all it was. And this one originally didn't. Then they put metal rails on it. So
Oh, that's really neat. What haven't we seen?
I don't know. Do you want to see me work on a project to see what we do when I'm working in the workroom?
I would love to do that.
Okay,
So let's do it.
Just put this in a tote bag there.
We may wish we had this cool breeze in the 70s in August of this year, but we're in early July, and it's a cloudy, overcast day, but it's a great day to be alive. And we're in Rouse's Point, and you've got all kinds of stuff here. So
Got all my tools and toys. We're going to install a window treatment because that's a big phase of what I do. I not only design all the projects for my business, I install them. So I'm on the ladder with the screw gun.
Oh,
So
boy.
don't do any butt shots, okay?
We'll try. Okay.
I'll carry this in and then I'll meet you inside.
Okay. Show you how much I know. I walked into this beautiful home in Rouse's Point. I said, "Is this a brand new home?" And folks said, "No, we've been here since 1972.
Just goes to show what a little decorating can do, huh?
Isn't it amazing? You've done a wonderful job, and you explained a little bit to me. What are you going to do here?
Well, we're going to try the verticals in which we're here before I started working with these people. We've done the living room and we put a new border in the dining room. Now we want to tie the dining room more to the living room. So it has a vertical blind on, which is lovely, and it's got the valance, but we're going to jazz it up and put that soft fabric valance that we saw earlier in the workroom that I said was coming into Rouse's Point. We're going to put that up. So the first thing I need to do is I need to take this valance off, and this is just on with a clip. I'm going to take that down. And then these clips just pop off. And then I'm going to install an L bracket because this window treatment is mounted on a board. So I need to put these up here, and I'm going to measure here. Just get this back just a little bit here. I'm going to see, I need, just trying to calculate exactly where I want to mount this. And it's about where I want to do it. And I'm just going to use my tape measure to make a little mark there. Now when I install, generally I will install my bracket right along the edge of the trim because if I do, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to get a stud in it. I don't need to use a wall anchor. But if I don't hit a stud, then I take my screw out and then I put a wall anchor in. So I don't ever need to worry about hitting a stud if I don't find one. I just reinforce it. Then it went right in, which means there's no stud there.
So much for theories, right?
That's okay, that's okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull that out, and we're going to put the wall anchor in. And I'm going to scoot behind you here. I need to get behind you and grab my screwdriver. Make the hole a little bit bigger. I just need to make it big enough that I can get the wall anchor in. This is the type of wall anchor I use, the collapsible wall anchors. I don't use the kind the little plastic ones. I always use the metal ones. Now what happens is when I tighten this screw a little bit, it's going to collapse behind the wall and it'll hold it in place. It's hard enough to do with the client watching you, but when you're doing it on camera, it's a little more nerve-wracking.
I was going to do a commentary, but I don't have enough jokes to fill in the time. It's interesting to watch.
It's okay. This gives Calvin some good practice for that how-to video.
Turn your fingers black and blue.
She did well.
People are always amazed that I can keep a manicure and still install draperies and work in my garden.
Yeah, that is amazing.
I'm the same way.
Okay, we heard that. Calvin said I'm the same way.
I'm going to put both of these in and then I'll tighten them right up so they'll be a good strong hold. I find that this anchor works better than the plastic one because it gives you that little hand behind the wall. It holds it all in place. Okay. Now we'll go to the other corner. Take this clip off. The great thing about mounting a window treatment on a board is once you get it up, you don't need to worry about it moving around. You don't need to worry about the ruffles going flat. They stay a lot fuller when they're mounted on a board. And it's easier for the client to take care of because then they just vacuum it regularly and they don't need to worry about having to fuss with it all the time.
Gee, you didn't hit a stud again.
No, that happens sometimes. It's probably either a little farther in or a little farther out, depending on where the builder put it in relation to the trim. There's one around, but it's just a matter of whether you hit it or not. So, I don't worry about it too much. Got in the car and get my hammer. And again, tighten these up. So now you get a lesson in drapery installation. Huh?
Hey, you never know when you might need it, huh? That's when I call my kids and say, who knows how to hang the drapery?
I have had more wives tell me that I've saved them a divorce by hanging the draperies. Because I knew that if their husband did it, they'd be fighting about it all day. So.
Well, when I do things like this, it's like speaking a foreign language.
I wasn't doing an installation one time for this gentleman. He was a single gentleman, and when I got to his house, it was a beautiful post and beam house in Vermont. When I got to his house, he said, I was unloading my tools, and he said, I have a power screw gun. He said, I'll let you use it if you want. And I thought, well, I'll be accommodating. He said, sure, we can use your screw gun. He brings me out this little power screwdriver. I said, never mind, I'll go get my own.
Okay.
I actually had my big gun there that day. It was pretty funny. Okay, now, Gertie, I'm going to need you to help me a little bit. I'm going to have you take that in right there.
Yep, I got it.
Okay, now, before we put it up, I want you to do me a favor.
Yes.
I want you just lined up with the edge of that headrail. See that headrail that's lined?
No.
Okay. I need to, all right, now I'm going to slide it your way.
Okay.
Now we're going to go straight up from there.
Okay.
Okay?
Up and in.
Right on top of the L bracket. Got it? Okay, looks good. Now put just 2 little screws into the board on each side. Then I just have to dress it a little bit and then it's ready to go.
Beautiful.
Now one of the things that we do on all of our valances that's a little different is you'll see when you look in the edges here, you don't see any white. Did you notice that?
Yep.
Isn't that cool?
Lovely.
We put a little facing there. And that's just one of the little touches that I do in my business that I think makes my designs a little exceptional. We also put a corded edge on it. We don't charge extra for the banding. We don't charge extra for the cording. That's all standard with us.
You know, you're publishing some of your best secrets here today. I hope.
That's okay. That's okay. Wasn't that the point of having
Yes, you
on
said.
the air is to share some of my tips?
Of course.
But those are things that if someone's going to do it themselves, those are little tricks that will help make it look more custom and
You're
and
just
less homemade.
securing the board up there now, right?
Now we're
With
just securing the board onto the brackets, yes. Oops, I'm sorry, didn't mean to hit you. Okay,
Good for the earthquake, right?
yep.
Isn't that pretty?
Now we just need to shape the folds and this cord sort of acts like a little wire for a wired edge ribbon. You can use it to sort of mold your balance. Now if Calvin wants to pan into the living room, you can see the treatment that we created this to go with. And you see this has got a little bit of a beige stripe, so it ties right in with that.
Yeah,
Almost like we designed it to do that.
that's really beautiful. And as if it were magic, we ended up in the living room.
This
This
is
is
the
something
living
you
room.
did before.
We did this, put this in a couple weeks ago, and of course the dining room was to match, and now the two rooms get tied together. And that's just part of what I do.
It's an absolutely beautiful day to see what somebody else does in the workaday world, and there are thousands of these stories all over the North Country and elsewhere. But you're a very special lady, Pam.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for allowing us into your life, showing us what you do for a living, and I can't wait to see what happens next. Did you say you were putting a book together?
I'm working on a book, yep.
Do you have a name for it, or
I do.
can we reveal that at this point?
Not going to reveal it right now.
Not going to
I
tell
have
us.
a working title.
Do you really?
Mhm.
Oh, that's great. Can't wait to look for it. Let us know when it's finished.
Okay.
Thank you once again. Have a great life.
Thanks for having me.
Best of luck in the future, and who knows?
Thanks for having me.
Again.
Oh, I'm
having me.
sorry. I'm
Yeah, let me give you a hug.
I'm dreaming into the next world.
Thanks for having me.
Who knows where we're going to be next time for our little corner.